brilliant then. So let's go back to Airway Gunnery. Those two events I recalled. What was that like? 92.5% Airway Gunnery score? Fabulous.
I don't know whether we need to look at this chronologically, but the first detachment for armament work, again, was with 6th Squadron. And that was when we went to Sardinia, Decimamanu Airfield in Sardinia. And I went there twice, actually, and it had its own moments over there. The range we used was called Capofrasca, and my vivid memory was the Italian range workers, range staff people, in no way wanted to have their evening disrupted by having to go to work for these crazy British pointing themselves at the ground in the dark. And all sorts of reasons came up why it couldn't happen. Like the sea state is too rough. The rescue boat, she is unserviceable. But we had a very strong, determined squadron boss, and he was not one to back down and lose an argument. So he prevailed, we prevailed, and we did night ground attack at Capofrasca. But anyway, moving on across, then it was to Malta. And I think that shoot was actually at Malta, Nick, rather than Cyprus. Maybe my memory.
Was it? Okay. I thought I recognized myself in the picture wearing tam o' shanter, but it might well have been Malta.
It was in one of those two. And Malta, my memories of Malta, yeah, the lovely, friendly Maltese people, hiring a scooter one weekend, going to a little island called Gozo off the coast of Malta for a bed and breakfast stay with a retired naval officer. And then Dom Mintoff, I guess he didn't want us there any longer, so he pushed us out of Malta and off we went to Cyprus. And Cyprus is beautiful, as you well know, absolutely beautiful. People, the Greek Cypriots, the food, all of that, the flying. We were always there in the hot weather and it got very hot, very hot. That particular shoot you mentioned, yeah, I mean, what can I say? It was extremely satisfying. The Vulcan cannon that we used on the F4 was the most magnificent of weapons, smooth as silk in its operation, pinpoint accuracy, which from an air-to-air perspective was probably actually not ideal, but incredible accuracy and just smooth. And what a rate of fire. I mean, we're basically a Gatling type gun, 6 barrels, peacetime rate of fire, 4,000 rounds a minute. Wartime, 6,000 rounds a minute or 100 rounds a second, 20 millimeter shells. And of course it was a can type setup with the Canberra towing the banner in an oval racetrack type pattern with us tipping in and calling the Canberra to commence his turn. And as you remember, Nick, we only had because of the rate of closure, we only had a half second available to us to get the rounds away and break away before we hit the flag. So it was exciting stuff. It really was, and very satisfying when it worked well. But again, it was precision flying. It wasn't obviously it wasn't like a real combat situation where you get a fleeting flashing moment and hope the rounds are going to hit. But nonetheless, a very good exercise for crew coordination, for using the seaman's eye and testing of all of one's flying skills, smoothness and consistency. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, the other one of the Cyprus detachment was towards the end. I was very conscious of the demanding heat on the ramp and really feeling it for the ground crew. And I said to the boss one evening in the bar, I said, "Boss, our armors are out there slaving away in who knows what temperature, something awful. And the aircraft go way up into middle airspace, do their thing, come back, red hot gun, and they're out there doing the same thing again. I think we should really give them a little bit of more than an impression, just see actually the gun in action. How about we set up a special mission to actually accomplish that?" And to my astonishment, he took the bait. And to my further astonishment, he pushed it up to air officer level in Cyprus. And to my greatest astonishment, he approved it. And then, of course, boss, I said, you'll need somebody with ground attack experience to do this. So I'm your man. So off I went with my regular navigator. All, as you said, all the troops were out there lining those little cliffs by the sea there, south of Akrotiri. Came in from the ocean down on the wave tops, pulled up in front of them using full burner, which of course wasn't necessary for performance, but nothing wrong with a bit of show. And over we went. And the normal firing on the air-to-air was half a second. I was given special permission to actually fire the gun for a whole 5 seconds. That is a very long time. So I'm opening up at quite a long range from this time-expired multi-seat dinghy. Our weapons instructor worked out precisely how high I needed to aim initially and then smoothly bumped forward as range closed. And it just worked beautifully. The dinghy was absolutely smashed. That was my last flight on the squadron.
Yes, two events that event I particularly remember. But coming back perhaps into a chronological order, you were again now gliding, and this time in the United States for the Smirnoff Derby, and where you were pitted against some of the best pilots in the world. Now, I know that this event has particularly good memories for you. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Apart from World Championships, flying the Smirnoff Derby was one of the highlights of my gliding life. Absolutely superb. I'd never been to America before. There was only 5 of us flying in the event, invitational, sponsored by the vodka people, Smirnoff. And we started off from an airfield, actually in Los Angeles. All the television and radio people were all there for this big moment. We were towed up out of the LA basin over the San Gabriel Mountains into the desert area, and up we climbed as a group. We always started at the same height, called a racehorse start, and leveled our wings, and off we went towards our designated destination for the day. So it was new terrain every day. This was pre-GPS, so all we had was a map and a compass. We were very experienced glider pilots, so no way was one of us going to be following another glider pilot. We all individually knew best. We were doing our own thing. So I do recall at one stage being down around 2,000 feet over fairly desert type country, feeling very alone and very anxious. But it was magic. It was really magic. And at the end of every day, all the publicity again, and we go to a glider pilot's home that evening for some social time. So it was a designated number of legs all the way across America, not a straight line, down, up, down, all the way across. And we ended up with a ceremonial fly-in to Dulles, no less. So the event had finished, but this was for the media. So we let down and we followed each other's tail as we let down in the overhead, which is incredible. This is Dulles. And we landed on the short takeoff and landing runway, and took the gliders off and parked them to one side. And then I noticed in the background, oh gosh, there's Concorde in town. And here's a young British Airways first officer striding vigorously over towards us. And it turned out he was a glider pilot from Booker. And we had a bit of a chat, and I suddenly realized, hey, there's a possible photo opportunity here, because they'll be using one of the big main runways, which was behind us. And I asked him, because he was departing soon, I said, roughly when will you be unsticking, getting that nose up, on this runway for takeoff? We'll position our glider, the British team, set it all up, camera and everything, get a magnificent promo shot. And he said, oh, we'll depart such and such a time. We got everything ready. Concorde duly came out onto the runway, the smoke belching at the back, and he started off down the runway. And the temperature humidity was such that the unstick was way beyond what he said, near the end of the runway somewhere, and he staggered off. The whole thing was a bust, but never mind.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame. Now, when you got back to the UK, you were in the Nationals, placed second, but more importantly, perhaps, the country honoured you for your achievements. Firstly, with the Royal Aero Club's Gold Medal, which I might point out is only awarded for outstanding achievements. And you joined the ranks of previous aviators like the Wright brothers, Blériot, Alcock and Brown, even the Apollo 11 astronauts. That's fine company. That was a remarkable thing to be given, yes?